Hello, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and I want to thank all of our keynote speakers, expert moderators, panelists, and solutions sponsors for participating in this year's Insight Jam Live. This has been a big year with the launch of the InsightJam.com community site and the amazing growth of the Insight Jam YouTube channel, which now has over 500,000 subscribers. Much of this success is tied directly to the video events, podcasts, and panel discussions we have been producing, and none of that would be possible without the thoughtful participation of the many IT professionals who are generously sharing their expert insights for this latest jam. We are building Insight Jam to be a place to celebrate enterprise technology with best practices, expert analysis, and solution showcases. And we want all of you to join us there to keep the jam going into the new year and beyond. If you haven't joined Insight Jam, please do. And if you already have, take a moment to invite some of your colleagues. And again, thank you all for being here and enjoy this event.
Solutions Review presents the Insight Jam Expert Keynote.
I'm Jan Baan. Thanks for inviting me, and I'd like to share with you the journey, my 45 years of entrepreneurial journey. Started in Baan Company in 1978. Later on, I will share some more detail, but I built real ERP solutions where we competed with SAP and Oracle, and Baan became real a superstar in last century. And yeah, real looking to ERP. Is still a little focusing on is ERP still the flag that covers the load? Because more and more we see in this new world of internet that ERP moves more step by step downstream with the processes to use what we call real microservices. And yeah, we learned more that ERP is costly and inflexible, and these downstream processes benefit more for the modernization. And there we see now the benefit. Decouple it, have our microservices, and they offer agility and scalability elements, and it's by far more cost effective. And it means also that if you decouple the legacy and integrate them with AI-driven microservices, then you have real efficiency. Because the more you go downstream, the more you will see the effect of the human for the job to be done. Now, and that's what we bring now, the rapid software factory. We learned that in Baan Company, building a factory for modernization, this internet stuff they're in. And then that's what we see real here in with, and moving now to, instead of low code, we see the element of high code without vendor lock-in. And in a minute, I will explain you more. And we see also the effect now of hybrid clouds that you even can deal with on-prem and even have this microservice there together. Okay, I like further to share with you than even is the world, what can we expect from ERP? ERP, still the flag that covers the load is even the question if you go therein. And what means ERP? Now, and what did we do? Now, in Baan, we were leading, there's a slide from Gartner in 1998, where Gartner ranked us by the top 3 players. SAP ranked as the biggest one, Oracle and Baan as the best one, leading in ERP in 1998. And ERP was complicated. We were winning here with the Boeing deal, where we had 40,000 users all in one instance, and winning the Boeing deal in 1995, and that was propelling us as a leading vendor in end of last century. But if you go to ERP, and it was more or less the ERP version we did, and you see that ERP is quite complicated. Especially if you look to the core of ERP with our master production scheduling, you go from your business planning, your product innovation, going there in with your demand plan, and then you have your requirements planning, you integrate, you purchase, your sales, and then you go to the assembly world and warehousing, etc. That means ERP is real complicated, and it means also from a data standpoint, everything is there linked in one database, and in some cases you have tens of thousands of databases are all united together. But now we see that we are able to decouple that, and even more downstream. But in the real upstream area around this say master scheduling, etc., you see that they are quite complicated. Now, and then we look from a data integrity standpoint in the real master scheduling, you see this generic data who are still quite integrated with what we see still with the engineering part, PLM, CAD/CAM, finance, sales, etc. And we see all those silos what we have around this data element. Data is often duplicated, leading to version control, and real time is also difficult to deal with this one. Now, but what we see then, even the limitation of complex ERP systems. In my opinion, it became the mother of all complexity. Complex, highly integrated, I mentioned already, in one SQL database, you tens of thousands of databases. Real difficult, costly, and to maintain it with upgrades, and is destroyed with all the bespoke elements. And we see also on-prem slow response, changing business requirements, and also locking, etc. And especially with the vendor lock-in situation is a disaster. More and more we see that becoming more locked in, and especially if bespoke all those elements are in. Good. I came to the conclusion after 20 years, quite successful in ERP, say go one step further. Where ERP was a transactional system, and I came to the conclusion built a real what we called a business operating platform. Now, what means a business operating platform? In a business operating platform, you integrate all these backend solutions and bring them together, end-to-end processes, etc. In an enterprise service bus with our business service, our master data management, and then you're able to even do your master data and bring all those processes together in what we call a business process management suite. And later on top, we built even an application framework to build everything in a business operating platform. But that was in the infancy of ERP, end of last century. And this BPM, business process management with a service bus, we were able to have this end-to-end processes, but it was too complicated, and we were maybe too far ahead in the beginning for the CIOs to understand it. And by the way, you're not fired by Oracle or SAP. Why should you change? And looking therein, now, this is what we learned. Although it was quite successful in the beginning. If you look to it, with these BPM solutions, you could build a whole enterprise. We built a supply chain solution for Siemens, an airplane on the ground for Embraer, etc., for utilities. Here, you focus on end-to-end processes, adopt the data from all those back-end solutions. Good. Now, and again, then we moved further. And if you have a little look in what we did, it means we focused in our applications. We see BAN, SAP, later on I2, the Oracles, etc. And step by step, we moved with BPM from an on-premise situation to also what we call to a cloud solution. And Chorus was more focusing in competition with Pega and Appian on a cloud solution. But then again, I moved a step further in what we really call these mesh-up solutions, where I started with the Process Factory on Oracle, on Google, and we see already here the Process Factory, and we move more on what we call this mesh-up solutions therein and focusing therein. Now, from this journey, we moved to what we call the world of infrastructure as a service. Now, realize that when I started my company last century, you have to build everything yourself. You take the database and you build all the logic yourself. Even what we did in my core solution, you build a platform as a service solution and you deal with everything together. But the beauty is what we see now with what we see infrastructure as a service, we now can take it from the digital guidance. And you see now in infrastructure as a service, we see a communication between the DevOps, and all those elements are now given, and we can adopt it in a real, what we say, consumerized way. And we learned where we see the top guys in the cloud, if it is Google, Azure, of Amazon, if you take your CI/CD elements, your infrastructure, etc. Now, there was a tremendous benefit in more 15 years ago that we can take everything as an infrastructure as a service and by far more advanced like a platform as a service. Now, and the beauty is what we're doing, the way to communicate, we do it with DevOps. And the DevOps is the linking pin between our application world and our microservices and between the world of an infrastructure as a service with all the open source tools, etc. And that makes it real mature. And in these cases, we see then the leading guys where we see is in Google, in Azure, and even in Amazon, and offering all these open source elements and focusing that. And then we deal with all the benefits here. That means we see that the mobile is becoming more in the driver's seat. And from there, we built from scratch our rapid application development, focusing on our services, application development support, data analytics in our cloud, and we built there our tools, what we call Rapid Composer, and the Rapid Developer elements. But I will bring you more elements therein. Now, what means that? And then, let me go back a little to my journey. When I started in 1978 with Baan Company, the unique element was that we moved quite early to India, and in 1987 we had already a software factory in India. And from there, we're growing. I accepted a venture capital investment from Gen Atlantic Partners in 1993. After 15 years, they invested 33 million for a third of the shares, and they collected a couple of years later $1 billion with the success of Baan. Now, with winning the Boeing deal propelled us quite a lot. You need a market maker, and if you have a market maker, we were also able to do our IPO in 1995. But again, 1998, after 20 years, with 5,000 people, close to $800 million revenue, and maybe 25,000 people working by partners, I came to the conclusion the show is over. Because I invested in 2 internet companies. One is Top Tier and the other is WebEx. I invested 120 million and had a third of the shares of WebEx, a majority element in Top Tier. And my idea was to connect internet companies, cloud companies in the slipstream of Baan. But I failed therein. You see that disruptive innovation is no longer possible, and Baan came more in an M&A element therein. And I came to the conclusion, okay, let's step out. And I sold my shares end of last century, and I started again from systems of record to what we called systems of differentiation. Everything on the internet, in the infancy of the internet, with our knowledge, what we did in Top Tier and WebEx, and we built what I mentioned already, our Cordis business operating platform. And we moved later on more in what we even called a Cordis process factory. Now, and more downstream, now, Baan was acquired by Infor, is now even a leading partner in Infor's portfolio. And after Cordis, after many years, Cordis came at home by OpenText and was acquired by OpenText in 2013. But here I saw a new dimension, is going from system of records into systems of differentiation and going here in what we call systems of innovation. Now, what is crucial to be disruptive innovative? 2 times I burned my ships. First times here in Baan, and the second times in Cordis, and we moved here what we call to reel the world of the maturity of the internet, and what we see here is systems of innovation, real what we call today the microservices. And what we really do here, avoiding vendor lock-in. But my journey moved again from transactional systems, Unix-driven client-server, to business process management on the internet, on the infancy of the internet, and we continue further in what we call real the maturity of the internet. And there we build software like in a factory. And we called it also the elements of decoupling. And if you build software in a factory, what is the core element in a factory? It's late binding, and the other element is also decoupling. And you do some things more with what we call, engineer to order, make to order, etc. Like building cars, you should build applications could be all different and are still generic. Now, that means we see ERP with microservices have now the opportunity to decouple the backend solutions and bring it back to vanilla and build all the downstream processes as microservices in a much better scalability and agility environment in this modernized microservices. You modernize your functionalities, and it is real disrupting the whole systems, what we do therein. We see also you break down your monolithic systems in the backend, and you're now able to take more best of breed applications. Means a much faster development. Your development cycles go 10 times faster, and it's with all these elements of maintenance and reducing technical elements, make it by far more simpler. That's what we learned. What I built in the 80s was even already a software factory building unique applications. This attitude helped me in Cordis, and for the third time helps me in a real what we do now with Rapid After 45 years of experience, a software factory is addressing the elements of the challenge of the traditional ERP. We bring it in a modern way, and it's tremendous increasing what we could say agility and also decision making and seamless integration there. Now, let me share it a little what it means. It means we are able to connect the real transactional systems and bring them down with more to the core activities. That means you minimize your license cost, your vendor lock-in, you bring it down, you bring it back to vanilla. And this database related SQL database solutions can be immediately connected with BigQuery of Google, and you go in the infrastructure as a service. In this decoupling area, you respect your ERP, simplify it, bring it down, and step by step you downstream processes. What we do with our rapid developer, you build our microservices. Now, that is done in an elastic way, have the speed in what you do in Google, but it's even agnostic to every cloud. And then on top, we build with our dynamic workflow, our micros apps in a very, very advanced way. Yeah, that increased flexibility, it brings real simplification in what we see in the backend solutions. Now, did we learn then? When I built ERP, data was king. One of the first in the 80s where we built ERP client server Unix applications on a database, but realized it's built before the internet. And everything was linked to a big database and bring it together. I quit and we moved to the world of Cordis and we moved to the world of metadata. And you go to the whole, application, to the whole enterprise, and you're building everything in a browser. In those days, in a SO browser. And then data is moving to information. That means here we go to end-to-end business processes. And it was in the beginning of this century. But again, I drop it out, and again I started again, and then we moved later on 50 years ago in Vandenberg more to what we called big data. And we go to big data instead of the SQL data. We are now able to have our knowledge and see with the REST API in a much easier way, not only to have a transactional system, but also a case-driven system with also what we say these state machines, etc. Link these both streams together. Now, and it allows us to focus on others. And then you've seen the maturity of the internet. And if you see now with tools like the Dockerization, with Kubernetes, etc., we go to semantic data, and we see now the intelligence of real machine learning and bring them all together. We see now the patterns in the downstream world. Now that means what we now focusing on dynamic workflows. And in the dynamic workflows, we can adopt AI stuff therein and going to this machine-driven world. But at the other end, it's not AI. At the other end, it's still the user who is doing the last mile. Is it common sense or common sensor? We see that and with Gen AI, etc., and late binding on the latest moment on my mobile, I can adapt also the world of the Internet of Things and bring this application for the knowledge worker. Now, and that is where we see the real benefits. We adopt the real traditional ERP solutions in the backend and connect them all with the front end microservices. And that brings a big step forward to do this stuff. Now, it means it. We do it with what is called not with low code, because low code have a limitation. You're locked in, and it's hard for you to do the last mile. We came to the conclusion that we did it already in Baan's time, where we generate also say tools in C language, but now we move more with generating Java code, and more or less 80% can be immediately generated from a development standpoint. That means instead of vendor lock-in low code, we go with high code, we generate in plain Java, and the last mile still can be done by a Java programmer to do this one. Now, and again, due to permanently generating and do it again, we go to an evergreen and ever young approach to continue permanently this stuff. if you're starting with low code, and again you continue and years long you stay then still in the platform where you're building on it. Here we can and again generate this stuff and focusing on practical solutions. Now, but you learn, I should say, the perfect is the enemy of the good. Let me compare that a little as a metaphor with autonomous driving. Autonomous driving, full autonomous becomes more complicated. We see still that in this Tesla car, the last mile is still done with the steering wheel. The car is driving better than I can drive this car, but the steering wheel is a combination to do this. Now we do the same. We generate most of the software in a better way, can automatically generate it. It's increasing the productivity of a Java program with 4 times, but you have still the steering wheel to do the last mile and bring this stuff together. Now, this makes it unique to also build real complicated applications as microservice in the front end. Now, let's explain then what means this then. In my opinion, we should be afraid for what we see the world of monolithic. It's becoming the mother of all complexity, and if you see these big monolithic solutions, we see then it's more becoming with an M&A approach. These big vendors are doing a lot of M&A applications, unite them together, etc. Bring it back and take a best of breed element. I mentioned already the complexity of ERP. Now, you take the complexity of P as it is, as an SAP. Now, it could be an SAP and in for an Oracle world, and you see this entity modeling like engineering order, purchase orders, etc. In an engineer to order, configure to order, make to stock. Now, with our custom or decouple point, we could do all those stuff. But why should you take a PLM stuff? You can take it maybe even from their CAD/CAM vendor if you look to CATIA. Take there the best from everything. With the order to cash, you see a CRM world, some things, maybe even with Salesforce or the CPQ part, or the enabling part with Workday maybe. Now, tomorrow's world is more easier to take only vanilla elements from a best of breed standpoint, unite them together in what we call this internet services. But we see now the microservices downstream can replace a lot of stuff. Now, why should we take here everything in an ERP world if we can go to a more modern shop floor control model in the downstream processes in the internet? The longer it is generic, you say respect there the ERP kind of stuff, but more specific, even with CPM, CPQ, etc. Now, why not doing this? What we see with e-invoicing, we build our undoc, all our documents are totally generated and immediately and adapted as real microservices. Bring them all together, and elements as CPQ, PQ to pay. There are very attractive elements to bring them in microservices. You see, ERP fits not for retail in warehouse management. It's better to build them and adopt them and build them here in microservices. Same with shop floor control. And we build a complex transportation management really in microservices and project solution, etc. And again, dealing with IoT can be also on the latest moment. Now, nice companies autonomous. Now you see the Internet of Business, see the backend solutions, link them with all these microservices. I call them the Internet of People, where the devices are in the driver's seat, and you even last mile, 1 second before the transaction, you can link them with what we call even Internet of Things. Now, then I mentioned already we go to Evergreen. Now, that is now the attractiveness what we can do continuously to rebuild evergreen or ever fresh, have your applications like you see in a Tesla car every time or anywhere in an electrical car. It can be refreshed permanently. That's what we see now in what we can do with modern microservices. You avoid vendor lock-in because you generate everything in Play Java, and that has given our 45 years of experience in doing this here. Now, again, what are then the key elements for a software factory? I mentioned already, it's late binding, decoupling, and bring them together. Now, decoupling, you isolate your ERP functions and you bring your vendor lock-in more, you reduce it to vanilla. Now, why should you go immediately on cloud? First, I should say more bring the bespoke and everything already in microservices and continue longer with on-prem. And on a later moment, you can easier to cloud. You reduce a lot of cost, etc. Take first what we call phase zero and bring it there. Now, microservices are much smaller, independent, and you work together with all teams. You can work together, late binding, best of breed applications, and you promote all the innovative stuff therein. Now, let me come to a conclusion. Now, what we see in tomorrow's world. The more we see now the world where we go to what we say is real this Gen AI and this agentic AI. Now, this is now the easy way. Gen AI can be adopted on the latest moment in late binding in the downstream microservices. By far too complicated to do that already in the beginning of the ERP solution. And the same what we see with agentic AI is more the workflow elements for the job to be done and taking these actions. Now, this combination make a revolution. We simplify the ERP part and we focus in all those microservices on the human, and we take the latest moment, all the human related stuff, combining generative AI, etc. And even we see then existing ERP and IT systems can now become combined therein. Now, let's come to a conclusion in summary. Now, what I learned in my 45 years of experience, the complexity of ERP can be reduced to only vanilla. And even it's not so much beneficial if we see today's functionality of on-prem. In most cases, yeah, it costs you a lot of money to go too early to the cloud, and you win not more functionality. It's the same client-server approach is not built native for the cloud. That's the problem, little what we see therein. Therefore, use it as it is. Now, of course, it's nice to have it on the cloud, but you can do it step by step. But do it only vanilla, bring all your costs down, and you can win a lot of money in these elements. Now, then with this hybrid model, immediately you have the benefit from all those microservices. You unite them together for end-to-end and bring them real for the job to be done to improve this one. That means IT brings only a little element for the EBITDA. Suppose you're looking to a mid-sized company, $100 million revenue, maybe 10 million EBITDA. Now, this company is maybe doing 2% for anywhere, 3% of IT. But now we see in the world of tomorrow, IT becomes part of business, and we can even increase the EBITDA. Maybe we double the EBITDA. We have learned already that Peter Drucker, in end of last century, came already to the conclusion that this modern IT could increase the productivity of the knowledge worker at least 2 times. And that's what we see now. Here we focus totally on increasing the productivity of the knowledge worker, because all the end-to-end solutions are united on a big data platform, AI-driven, with these microservices. And again, now here we can very easy adopt agentic AI and Gen AI as combinations in the downstream processes. Still, we respect the complexity of ERP, what I mentioned in the beginning, in mass production scheduling, etc., and take it as vanilla, and then step by step bring it back and reduce it. Now, and I think that is maybe the element as coming back. Is ERP then still the flag that covers the load? Now, I'm thinking not. We see that ERP will there for the next 10 years, but more limited and more in the core part of the generic part of the backend solutions. Okay, thank you very much, and I hope that it will be value of you. Thank you.
For video highlights, replays, and more, visit insightjam.com.